Hello everyone, welcome to Amazing Animal Stories. Many people think our lives are all tied together in the web of life. The story we're telling today is proof of that. Today's story is about parents who were shocked when they discovered how a fox paid them back for his salvation. But before we start our story, please subscribe to our channel, Amazing Animal Stories, and press the bell icon as well. This story is about a family of 3 who meets a hurt fox in the woods and has to decide what to do. The family's husband and wife loved being outside and spending time in nature. They wanted to escape their worries, connect with nature, and go fishing. The wife knew this village well because her parents used to live there. They got that house from their grandparents, so it has a lot of memories for them. But as time passed, almost everyone in the village moved to a city. Every day, the village became even more empty. Because of this, the house was sold by the wife's parents. But the older people stayed in the village, and if you want to visit, they will always let you stay in one of their homes. The family had already decided on the house they would stay in as they packed up their belongings and moved to the village. The trip was long and hard. On a good day, it took at least 2 hours to drive. While the husband drove, both he and his wife looked out the window at the scenery. Since they were on a country road, they drove slowly. At this point, the daughter was already asleep, and the wife was almost dozing off when the husband suddenly stopped the car. The wife opened her eyes and was about to ask her husband what had happened when she saw that he had taken off his seatbelt and gotten out the car. When the wife looked at the road, she saw a muddy animal that had been hurt lying on the side of the road. The husband's wife also got out of the car to look at the animal more closely. When the wife got closer, she saw that it was a fox. The country road was muddy, so the husband could have driven around it to get to where he was going as quickly as possible. But what kind of person would leave a dying animal behind? Still fighting for his life, the poor animal's eyes kept slowly opening and closing. He was taking steady breaths, but his chest barely moved. The husband and wife couldn't decide what to do as they stood by the hurt fox. The car suddenly opened again, and their daughter jumped out. She ran past the parents and sat down next to the fox, patting the fox on the head. "Honey, we can't do much for him here," her sad-sounding father told her. But when the daughter looked back at them, both parents were surprised. It was the first time they'd seen their daughter look so sure of herself. She said she could never leave the fox like this on the road to die, and she was not getting in the car without it. The parents agreed and started to think about what to do. Since the nearest town was a long way away, they decided to take the fox to the village in hopes of finding some way to help the fox. The wife got her blankets from the car, and the husband carefully picked up the fox and put it on it. They carried it to the car and carefully put it on the back seat. The daughter got into the back seat and sat by the fox. The wife and husband knew they couldn't waste any time if they wanted to help the fox. They went as fast as they could on the road. The wife heard her daughter talking to the fox. It sounded like she was trying to convince the fox to wait a little longer because soon, good people would come to help it. But the fox was standing there and staring up into the sky. As soon as they got to the village, they stopped at the house where people were living. The husband stopped the car and ran to the house, where he knocked on the gate. Soon after, an older man came out of the house and welcomed him to the neighbourhood. The old man didn't take long to figure out what was happening and told the family to see the old herbalist, who lived on the edge of the village. When the family got there with the hurt fox, the older woman sat on a bench and put some herbs in order. The wife went to see the old woman and told her what was going on. She showed the old woman how sick the poor animal was that she was holding. After a good look at it, the woman said, "Bring it to me." She gathered her bundle of herbs and invited the whole family into her house. She cleaned a small table near an open window while telling her family where to put the fox. As the injured fox lay on the table, the old lady started to look at it. The fox looked like it had a broken paw and trouble breathing. She also said the fox probably had a concussion because it was so sick. The old lady smiled and told the family that they had done well and found the fox just in time. "Get me some cold water from a nearby spring and leave it by the door. Come to me in a couple of days," the old woman said with confidence. The family was surprised by how sure of herself the old woman was, but they decided to listen to her. When the family went outside to find a spring to get water from, they saw some water containers by the door to her house. They left the water containers by the doorway and returned to the village to settle in. The whole family was up all night, They spent the whole night worrying about the fox and whether or not it was okay. After 2 days, they decided to see the old herbalist to see how the fox was doing. They saw the old woman sitting down and drinking tea when they got to the house. The fox was sleeping on a box made of wood next to the stove. The woman smiled at the family and said that they had come just in time and that she had something to say to them. They agreed and sat at the table as the daughter went to the box by the stove to meet the fox. The clean fox was resting in the box while its face and stomach were bandaged. He looked better than he had by the side of the road. When the fox saw the little girl, it looked up and began to wave its tail as if it knew her. The old woman told the family that the fox will be fine, because it won't be strong enough to hunt for food on its own. The old woman also said, strangely, that it wasn't a coincidence that this family found the fox. She said that the fox and their daughter's lives were somehow tied together. The husband was doubtful and confused, but the wife knew what was going on because she was raised by people who lived in the village and knew what they believed. After talking to the old woman, the family and the fox left the house. The old woman also gave the family a package of herbs that they could give to the fox to help it get better. When the family tried to pay the old woman back, she wouldn't take the money. Just like before, the woman said she only needed water from her spring. She also asked that the family visit her whenever they returned to the village to see how the fox was doing. When the family finally got home, the fox turned out to be an old male. Well, since the family started taking care of him, the daughter always comes home from kindergarten to play with the fox. The name she gave the fox was Ray. Even though the fox could be aggressive at times, the girl still played with him. After some time, the family decided to return to the village, but Ray would go with them this time. When they got to the village, the first thing they did was take Ray to see the old woman. Ray went to her with a smile because he knew she was his saviour. The family returned to where they were staying in the village and the parents started unpacking. The wife saw out of the corner of her eye that the daughter and the fox were playing on the grass. The situation changed when the fox suddenly jumped on the girl and knocked her to the ground. The wife ran outside and yelled at Ray to stop holding their daughter. But when the wife got closer to the daughter, she saw that the child was doing fine, even though the fox's sudden action surprised her. When the mother looked more closely, she saw that Ray had a snake in his paw, and she had a sudden realization. The fox had just saved the girl's life, and then she suddenly remembered what the old herbalist had said about how the fox and the girl's lives were linked. The family helped save Ray, and Ray helped save their only child. The fox lived with the family happily for a few more years until he died of old age. We've finally gotten to the end of this interesting story. If you want to see more stories like this that make you feel good, you can subscribe to our channel, Amazing Animal Stories, and press the bell button to be notified every time we post a new video. Thanks for watching.